Hey guys, it's Rick here from Bandit. How you all going? Hope you're doing well. Happy Easter, Merry Christmas, and everything in between. Let's get into it. We're doing a continuation on the series of the day in the life of a board game store owner. I've had enough positive feedback. People want to see more and more videos, what it's like, what are the challenges, hurdles, etc., etc. Why not? And let me know down below in the comments if you do like these videos, if you want to see more, because that type of engagement gives me the initiative or the proactiveness to continue this series there and after the fact. So today's video, an interesting one indeed. It's going to be about customer complaints. Now, I've used this complaint, not picking a specific complaint at all or a specific person, purely because it only happened in the last 48 hours, and I thought, what a great way or what a great content for a video, because customer complaints in this industry are part and parcel of running a game store. You're going to be getting them monthly, if not weekly, if not sometimes daily, pending what time of the year it is, where we are in the season, what's happening in this space, what releases are coming out. And what I've found is how you deal with these is going to either set you up for success or failure in this industry, because board games in itself is a saturated market. There's so many choices out there. There's so many ways that people can go about their business in acquiring whatever models that they want, whatever board games that they want, whatever card games that they want. And so if you come to these engagements and don't have the best possible solution in mind, you're going to be behind the eight ball very quickly. You're going to lose out. It takes years to build up a reputation. I should know that. I've been in this industry for 6 years now, if not longer if you include my playing years, but 6 years from starting a business. It takes years and years to build up a reputation that you have, but it can take minutes to kind of burn it down very quickly. So why not use the most recent engagement that we had with a customer complaint and walk you through how we kind of dealt with it? And, is there any constructive feedback that we can take from it? Is there anything that, we're doing wrong? In the case that there's going to be times when we're not perfect. It just happens. You're going to mix something up, right? And it's at that point you should always put up your hand and say, hey, my bad. Let's try and fix this as soon as possible, as quickly as we can, and get on with the job. But so let's look at today's example. So out of nowhere this week, I got an email with the subject header is, where is my order? Hi, I've been waiting on my order since February. I've been pretty patient waiting, but this is getting out of hand now. My order is insert number here. So today's date, it's this week. It's the start of April. A customer ordered something in February, at the end of February. What they had ordered was the new releases for Marvel Crisis Protocol, which was supposed to release worldwide, in Australia included, at the first week of March. Those packs include the Nightcrawler and Bishop, Shadowcat, and also the Professor X and Shadow King. Very popular. X-Men 97. Completely blown it out with people's expectations. Love the series. Big fan. Obviously, everyone's buying into it. I think it's a great set to be painting myself, so why not? Big fan of X-Men 97. And to kind of prove that, I'll pull up one of my recent purchases. Ba-ching! Which is a, 9.8 graded X-Men number 11 edition, signed by, Scott Lobel and Jim Lee themselves. So big fan of the series, and I've got a few of those that I can show off in another video. But let's get back to the complaint. So customers just asked, hey, and they've made a statement about it. They said, hey, what's going on? I've been patiently waiting. Where are we at? And if we go back to the response, and just I'm going to be going back and forth, providing more context and providing background as we go through all these individual items, but I hadn't had any engagement with this customer specifically between the time of order, the 26th, and today, until now. So we've just addressed the customer, and I'm going to refer to this customer as Tony in this example. That's not his name. It's just, we're going to go with Tony. Hey, Tony, hope you're doing well, buddy. Australia's behind. We're one of the only channels communicating this with the player and customer base. Please see below the last two announcements on these products. Feel free to give me a call on 04. This is my phone number if you wish to discuss, bud. No problem if you want to exchange or refund either, mate. So what's really important about this kind of response is two things. First of all, I've given him an out. One of the reasons why I started GameSpan is I had a really, really poor experience before I started my store, and was one of the pillars that I went on with it, is that there was a pre-order I made for an item that continued to get delayed. I'd asked for a refund for that item because it was 6 months by that time, and they completely and utterly refused. I eventually, got my money back, but only because eBay would eventually jump in. But I don't like the idea of strong-arming anyone into, whatever they've ordered they have to do. If it's a normal order, sure. If it's a pre-order and it's supposed to be released, that release date doesn't happen, I think it's completely feasible. So I always give people an out, and that kind of really neutralizes the situation, because then it gives them options. It kind of puts the ball in their court to say, well, I could sit here and deal with Games Bandit in delivering my item, or I could just get a refund and go somewhere else and take my business elsewhere from that moment, from that order and potentially onwards. So we've given them an out. I've also listed my phone number, and what I've found, online stores, even brick and mortars, in this generation moving forward, I've found that less and less people are doing things via, the phone. Everyone's doing things through text. Everyone's doing things through email. I have found phone calling is so much more efficient. It gets to the point. You usually come out with a resolution within like a minute or 2 minutes, because you understand the problem. You can work on it there and then. I find that all these businesses that don't list their number, I'm not the biggest fan of, because I find that if I've ever got a problem and I've bought something, my internet service provider, I think the service provider that we have doesn't have a phone number. It only has an exchange via messaging. I want to be able to call up that internet service provider and just say, hey, look, bang, this is the problem, resolve it. I don't like the whole thing about, people being really, withdrawn about their details. In saying that, if I get an unknown caller phone call to come through, I don't answer it. If it's a number that I don't have listed on my phone, I do answer it. And I answer it quite, in a good positive vibe. And I've even found, I remember a few years ago, there was a customer who made an order that they wanted the next day, and in WA. And to send anything in WA and to get it there the next day is like almost impossible. It is impossible. Unless I'm going to fly the item myself and jump on Qantas, it wouldn't happen. So I got this really long email. It was for his son. He bought it at 6 p.m. He wanted it like 9 a.m. the next day. It was express. And, I got this really long email about how disappointing it was, and he's going to give me 1-star review. And so I just called the customer, and the whole, what I've found, whenever you're dealing with someone on the phone, it completely neutralizes the tone there as well. If I say, hey, it's Rick from Games Bandit, how are you going? How can I help you? It just sets the tone really well, where I think sometimes in text there can be a little bit, miscommunication, or people are a little bit more looser with how they kind of throw themselves. In this case, in this situation, it wasn't the case, but I really prefer that. And the third thing is the communications that we have. So we use Facebook as the main communication line to kind of give people updates within regards to, releases themselves. And the whole reason for that is because if I can reach, potentially 1,000 people by making one post, that informs not only my customers, but potential customers who are looking to purchase down the track, or even people who aren't in my customer base, and it kind of helps the community understand where things are at. So we try to be very informative, and in order for us to be informative, we've got a really good reputation and a communication line with our various distributors that we deal with. And it's not like I call them each and every day and say, where is this, where is this, where is this? It's probably like once a month, where we just need to understand where everything's at and trying to give everyone the same message so they're on the same page. So yeah, so part of that Facebook communication that we did, there was two. There was one on the 27th, so the day after the gentleman's order. It came out and said, like, look, I'm not going to read this verbatim, but you can see here it says Marvel Crisis Protocol expectations 4+ weeks. So probably the end of March at that point. I didn't give a specific date because the distributor couldn't give me that date either. They weren't confident, and I'd rather not just put a date for the sake of making a sale when, I'd want to keep everyone informed. It's just a better way. This is a long-term game rather than the short-term game. You never want to screw someone by forcing them into a sale or giving them false pretenses or promises. And yeah, we're quite direct with that communication. Another one came out on the 4th, which was a few days before this email came through, just to say that the Marvel Crisis protocol items and a whole list of other items have landed, and they're at Botany. And so Botany is a suburb in New South Wales where the main port is next to the airport. So the items were there waiting to be pushed or moved to the distributor in New South Wales and then transferred to us to then push out to everyone else. As a bit of a efficiency saving from us, or trying to fasten up the process, we generally try to write all our letters. And by letters, this is just a customer letter right here to say, thank you, this is your order. And then pre-print all the, I don't think I've got one on hand here, but pre-print all the postage prepayments for, Australia Post or whoever we're dealing with at that time. That way, as soon as we get the item, put the letter in, slap the package slip on it, and send it out straight away. So, yeah, we try to be as efficient as possible, but we've made that communication with the customer. Going down to the next communication, though, he says this: I don't know if I am misinterpreting the wording in those images, but my order was placed on the 26th of Feb. I saw the post on the 27th of Feb, and I assumed I made it in time to be part of that allocation. I just thought they hadn't even arrived in Australia yet, so I was happy to be patient. Which is, he is correct. At the time of making that post on the 27th and on the 4th of March, they had not arrived yet, right? On the 4th of March, we declared that they'd arrived just in Botany, but not to distribution. On the 27th, we'd advised we were 4 weeks behind. Then he says, but I have people in my gaming circles that are distributors themselves, and I asked them what's happening because everyone else seems to have these models here except me. They told me that the models have been here for over a month now and had already been sent out to people. Was I just forgotten about in that pre-order allocation? And there's a few things happening in this email. It's a little bit all over the place. There's a few... Okay, so if we were to break this down, customer made an order on the 26th. Communication went out on the 27th that there's at least a 4-week delay. Customer seems to think, or Tony in this situation seems to believe, or seems to have witnessed, that people are playing with the models in question in his local gaming circle. What's happening, with that? And so, just to go back a step here, Australia is very, very different to how other areas of the world work. While we are one country and one continent, you will find that we have a number of distributors. I have an account with 7 different distributors in Australia alone, which is absolutely insane. That's because there may be a distributor has specific rights to a published game, or they've got rights to a specific manufacturer, or they dabble across a number of games that we kind of sell as well, or potentially we were selling something that didn't do that well. Funko Pops is an example of that. That's a different distributor as well. So we have multiple distributors in Australia in the gaming industry. However, for Marvel Crisis Protocol specifically, we only have one. A year and a half ago, we had 3, and then it went back down to 1. They have the sole distribution rights in this country. They get all the copies that come through, and they distribute them to the stores. And a distributor, by definition, is someone who imports the goods and then moves them onto the respective stores that they order. The stores then sell them to customers. So it's pretty much like a 3-tier selling channel, if that's how you want to put it. I asked them what's happening because everyone seems to have the models here expect me. So, in this kind of... I think what had happened, in hindsight's a wonderful thing, his definition of distributors probably not aligned to everyone else's understanding, and that being a distributor is, as I just explained it, what he's kind of suggesting is a store, or like a representative of a store. And the reason why I know this is because with that one distributor, they're only 5 minutes down the road from where we're located, where Games Bandit is located, in New South Wales. This customer is not based in New South Wales, and so when he says distributors, I first had assumed he meant like people who work at the distribution that are in his gaming circle, but it couldn't have been right because they don't work in that state. So I went along with it, and I just said to him, hi, your order is in the initial allocation that we in the Australian distribution is receiving, which is true. We haven't received them to date, per the updated messaging. From the time of the post, Australian distribution had not received stock. It's still to be transferred to Australian distribution. We're hoping to receive it this week and get it in your hand as soon as possible. If you feel as though we are misinformed, please link the stores or distributors that has their items in stock. Now, I at that time did go and double check that the other stores hadn't received it, just in case there wasn't like an extra channel that was importing them somehow, some way that we just weren't aware about. So going up from the top, I first started here in the Combat Company, still in pre-order. Games Portal, still in pre-order. Gameology, still in pre-order. Good Games, still in pre-order. So I basically went and just typed the product and then went to the 4 other ones that appeared at the top of the SEO search in Google. So no one actually had the product at that time. And that message isn't me like trying to call him out. It's just to get an understanding of, to say like, look, there's a misalignment here, and it's really important with kind of how you word this, because you don't want to come off as offensive. It's not about being right in retail. It's not about being right. It's about trying to work to get the best possible solution, and that's what this is all about. This, from start to finish, as I said at the start of this video, that's what we're trying to do here. And I just reinstate, we're doing everything we can, including actively communicating with the distribution to ensure we're informed and having our finger on the pulse. We want to make sure you have the best possible experiencing ordering from Games Bandit. Feel free to give me a call tomorrow, buddy. So again, I just reiterate, if he wants to call me, here's my number. Feel free to have a chat. No problem. Going down to the next communication, Tony comes back with, I have always had a great experience with Games Bandit, which is great. I'm glad to hear it. It was just seeing everybody else in my gaming group with the models and me thinking that I was forgotten about that made me frustrated. Now, we would never ever purposely forget a customer. If that happens accidentally, I apologize in advance. It's a future tense me. Always trying to do our best. Always trying to get the best possible solution. So, the people in my gaming groups have the models, and our distributors don't have stores. They just get an ABN, so they get their own models at significantly reduced rate and peddle other ones onto people they know or on Facebook Marketplace. It seems pretty common practice these days. They get results, but it's too shady for me, and I prefer not to buy from them. Instead, I use Gamesman and a couple of other stores. First of all, thank you so much, and I really, really appreciate the ongoing support from yourself and also the large customer base that comes through and uses our store. Probably a few things to unpack here. I know for a fact that the Australian distribution didn't have them. The people that he probably would have witnessed have the models have bought them from overseas, and they've landed here. It's probably a response to knowing that Australia wasn't going to get them on time, and so they've ended up buying them from America and UK and wherever they can get it. And that in itself kind of raises a bit of a problem here, right? Because, first of all, the Australian market share is in a bit of a shambles whenever this happens, because people buy from elsewhere. Distribution and stores in Australia then get dealt dead stock. There are times when we have over-ordered or things have been delayed months past that fact. During the COVID era, this happened quite a few times. Distribution would still get the orders of what they had ordered, but they wouldn't get it till like 3 to 4 to 5 months after the worldwide release. Customers in Australia would then turn to buy them from, wherever else. And when they would get their models, and then when the distribution would eventually get their stock, they would have all this dead stock. No one else would need to buy it because the market here has already been fulfilled, and it's absolutely killing it, because not only do we miss out on sales in this space, but then it distorts distribution's ability to kind of foretell what they should order for the next time. So what that means is that if distribution ordered 1,000 of this unit and they only sold 100 and there's 900 left, the next wave of that unit or the next release window for that particular product line, they're probably going to only want to order 100, or like at least minimize the amount that they want to order. And then you get this position where they're under ordering for the next release, and we're overselling that to as a result. And so, yeah, it kind of sucks when that does happen, but it does happen at times, and we kind of, work through that as best as we possibly can. The worst part of this is, being a store, you're often the boots on the ground. You are the first response to this. Customers aren't going to, reach out to the publisher or distribution. There may be some people who do that, but the frontline is generally the stores who get this kind of, a complaint or an issue, or sometimes in a threatening way. We're kind of, I've even been accused of hiding a Marvel Champions Hulk pack on release that someone had threatened to break in to find it because they didn't know what was happening. So, yeah, people out there are a little bit crazy in this industry, which is okay. I get it. And then the second part of this is distributors don't have stores. And so what he means is there are individual people who are saying that they're a store, they're getting an ABN, they're going to the distributor and they're saying, I'm a store, give me stock, I will buy from you. Is it happening? It absolutely has. We used to run, Games Bandit that is, used to run an event down at the local Diggers, which is an RSL club for those playing at home. And what was interesting about that is we had a bit of a collective group of about 15 to 16 people who became regulars to our gaming nights on Wednesdays. Out of nowhere, this gentleman came, and on the second week of him coming, on the second Wednesday of him coming, he came down and asked me, where do you buy your stock from? And so I told him, I got nothing to hide. You can find that out by a simple Google search. 3 weeks later, he came back, didn't play, didn't engage with myself or anything, which is fine. After everyone was walking out, he then reached out to the group and said, hey, I'm now a store. I can get product. I will beat everyone's price by 5 buckaroos. And, it just, at that time, it was pretty crazy because it had just shown how easier the barrier to entry had become from the time that I had originally entered myself. I remember entering pre-COVID with one distributor in mind here is that I had to spend a minimum of 5,000 to get an account. I had to prove that I was adding to the community. I had to have a running website with a merchant facility. And there were a few other metrics that I had to meet and to prove myself and to kind of add something. And one of the questions they asked is, what are you gonna add? Like, how are you gonna make sales? And the sticky answer or the trap answer here was, I'm going to sell below everyone else and beat them out of the market. And they hate that. When they get people who race to the bottom, that's actually not a good reflection of the market because it actually kills their existing customer base if they were to align with accounts like that. But this is a completely another video for another time. But does it happen? Yes. What I have found out, speaking to my account managers over the years, is that they've become more vigilant with who they let in the front door, which is fantastic. I can see his complaint is a genuine one, and it doesn't help us. Like if we're running events and people are turning to other people to purchase their product, it kind of kills the vibe of us running events, because I can guarantee if every one of those people that were coming to our game nights of the 15 people had turned to that other person because they were selling it for, a couple of bucks cheaper, there'd be no monetary incentive for us to run it. And there's going to be someone, I'm sure, in the comments that's going to read this video and they're going to say, well, are you in it for the money? And let me just put it to you like this. It's very important for any business, small or big, to make a profit. Otherwise, there's no continuation of that company. So yeah, very interesting take. But anyway, that's another story for another day. Really appreciate the support. And he says here, I apologize if I seem prickly. As I just said, I was pretty frustrated seeing other people with these models and assumed I'd missed out and was forgotten. I appreciate the open communication, clarification on the things I didn't understand. And I said to him, all good, buddy. We'll get you those models as soon as we can, which we will. I definitely have not forgotten you. And I, reiterated, I think you'll find people with the X-Men items in hand in this specific scenario have ordered them from overseas in the absence of Australian distribution receiving them in time for release. Now, this was a good outcome. It's not like, let me rephrase it. It sucks that the result is the customer doesn't have the product in hand, but it's good that the outcome was that we both aligned that everything's going to be okay from a business point of view. As we've got your order, you're allocated, you're not going to miss out. We're going to give you that item as soon as we possibly can. And, this is what happens in that type of transaction. Now, if I was to open my business up 15 years ago, a youthful teenage, Rick in the Games Bandit mindset, I don't know if I would have responded to any of these emails that I get or any of these customers that raise and ask questions. Sometimes, it's very easy to fire from the hip, but you've just got to go in there with a mind state of trying to be positive, trying to think of the best possible solution for everyone, create a win-win scenario for everyone so they're all walking away with the best possible experience, the best possible outcome. And that's what I've tried to do here. And that's what we try to do by being, open with our communication to, all the different people in the community with our Facebook drops or with our monthly newsletter items that come out. So just want to thank you so much. I hope some people have taken a few lessons from here. And again, like I said at the start of the video, if you did enjoy the content, please let me know, because I'll continue to raise these videos. And let me tell you first and foremost, I get where this guy is coming from. I was in a position of frustration when I was purely a player in the community, and I remember going to a world championship and we were late receiving Nantex, which was pretty much a broken OP unit that people would be playing at Worlds that Australia got very late. And so to not be able to practice against that unit in person was a bit of a detriment. So one of the pillars, as I said in the start of this video, is we wanted to get items as soon as we possibly could. We wanted to be forthcoming with our communication. And I've tried to embody that from the start of this business. And I get where people come from with these frustrations. We get these emails weekly. If I opened up my email and I showed you what it was like, this is what it is like. And I would prefer to be working on, what can we do for the community? What are the next sales? What are the next coming out items, etc., etc. But I can't, because these are some of the hurdles that we've got to come through, but you've got to respond to these as best as you possibly can. And again, thank you to this customer and also all the other customers that buy from us, and we'll continue to do the best possible job that we can for you guys. Thank you. Whoosh.